So I feel like I look a little bit crazy, and I also tend to be a little bit long-winded with my thoughts, and I'm trying to be as concise as possible when I'm talking about this subject, especially since I've been doing a lot of research lately, barely been sleeping, just looking at everything. I'm a part of at least like 2 expat groups online, like expats that are here in Korea, looking up their experiences and, reading everybody's journey, everyone's thoughts, and just kind of talking about how my views have changed regarding immigration just everywhere. Not even just Korea, even people that want to immigrate to America. I've always been extremely sympathetic to immigrants wanting to go to any country, and I think that that is like especially pertinent now, with everything going on with Afghanistan and like more things like that. I'm not going to pretend that I am a foreign policy, international relations expert. I kind of wish I was, but I'm not. So I'm not really going to speak on that, but I just kind of want to talk about how in the very short time that I've been here in Korea, how living here has impacted my thoughts on immigration advocacy, and how I just wish that more people could go where they want to go and have the freedom to live where they want to live and be able to have easier access to all of the things necessary that you need to become a citizen in another country. And I think that the lack of resources for a lot of people, the favoritism of the amount of income that you earn, it all really impacts people's ability to get a citizenship somewhere. And you see all of these people who work so hard at whatever the language is of the place, doing volunteer work, all of these things to prepare for like long-term residency visas and even green cards eventually. And it's just like, it's so hard for a lot of these people. And it's especially hard for the people that aren't deemed worthy enough depending on their, income. And I just think that it's a really frustrating reality that I just wish that I could do something. It makes me really antsy, if that makes sense. It makes me want to go out and just like advocate for people, these honest to God, hardworking people that just want to live where they want to live. So before coming to Korea, I had this kind of idea, or I guess I should say, before I came to Korea now as a foreign language instructor. I came here before as an exchange student, but before I came here, I had this idea of, I want to integrate myself and I want to work on my Korean proficiency, and I want to be able to eventually get another kind of job. Because the thing is when you come to Korea, and I'm only speaking for Korea, I also don't know everything either, so I'm going to be linking resources down in the description box. I know this is kind of niche. I don't know how many of you are interested in it or whatever, but since I'm here, I feel like it's relevant to, talk about it. You're here, especially when you first arrive. So they have like multiple different visas here in Korea, and the most common visa that a lot of people come in are the D series visa and the E series visa. And the E series visa is like, and what I mean by series is there's multiple subsections of, E visas. And those are specially sponsored visas. And then the D visas are like, there's 2. Those are education. So one of them is being a student, that's D2. I was on a D2 visa when I studied abroad here for a semester. People are on D2 visas if they're getting a master's here, if they're just studying, as an exchange student, getting their full bachelor's, whatever, they're on a D2. D4 is Korean language instruction. So There's a lot of different Korean language schools here in Korea that people can enroll in full time, and that would be on a D4 visa. And D series visa people, they can't work in Korea unless they get special exemption. They have to apply to be able to work, but it has to be part-time, and you have to have a certain level on your topic exam, or if you're, you know, pursuing your master's or something and you get a university job, like there's paperwork that you have to fill out. And like I said, depending on your Korean proficiency, if you have like a topic level 4, which is like upper intermediate, you can work up to like 25 hours part-time, but if you score lower than that, you know, depending on things. With the E-Series visa, there's multiple different kinds, and the one that I'm on, which is, you know, a really common one, is the E2 foreign instructor visa. There's also E1, which is similar, but you're a professor, so you're probably like working at the university level, so you'll be on an E1 visa. But there's other, you know, different subsets of the E visa, but regardless, it's a sponsored visa. So when you're on an e-visa, you are extremely restricted when you are here because you're not legally allowed to have other jobs. It holds you a lot, and so a lot of people who really want to have another kind of career in Korea, which is me, I would really like to pursue something else in Korea besides teaching at some point. I love the job that I have. I'm treated very well, but it's my ultimate goal is to do other things. And I was well aware that I would have to work on my Korean proficiency, but there's a lot that factors into being able to switch to an F27 visa. You guys have probably seen multiple videos of different YouTubers or content creators that live in Korea talking about the long-term residency visa, and how the F27 visa gives you the most flexibility when it comes to finding another job in Korea. A lot of companies here will not want to sponsor a visa because the process to do so is very complicated and it's a lot of money for them, whereas they could hire somebody with an F-series visa and they can even pay them more. And while I understand, it's still extremely frustrating, especially when you're here on, and I'm going to speak personally as somebody who's on an E2 visa. F27 visa, I'm just going to call it F2, is a points visa that you can get, and out of 120 points, if you are able to get 80 points, you can apply for that visa, and then you're able to stay, and you can basically apply for any job in Korea because you are on a more flexible visa. So a lot of people that come to Korea will start off on E1s or E2s, or another subset of E's, people who are students who are going to graduate. A lot of them apply for this F-series visa, for the F2 one, because it gives them more job opportunities, because more companies here are likely to hire somebody with an F visa who's on an E2. I really, really want to be integrated in Korea, and I do want to learn the language. So it's not even that I don't want to go through the hard process of learning the language, of taking the classes. One of the bigger points that you can get is if you complete the KIP program, and that's the Korean Immigration Integration Program. And so a lot of the times if you finish KIP level 5, you get extra points, like for finishing the program, and a lot of that is like language and cultural instruction. And I know that recently they made changes in July for people who earn higher income in Korea, because you have to submit like an annual income report whenever you're applying for the visa. And if you make, like, obviously the more money you make and the more money like you contribute to the tax system, the more points you're going to get. And while I guess I understand that, it's favoring people that make a lot of money, and it's like, it's really hard for a lot of the times people who come here as foreign English instructors or foreign language instructors, you know, we don't start off on a really high salary. So like it's especially difficult when we aren't making a whole lot, and there's like no choice. I found an article, and I'll link it down below. People have been kind of outraged by that because, you know, they're favoring that. And then I know that they also disqualified E7 and saying they're no longer eligible for it. And like that is heartbreaking for people who are on an E7 who have been working really hard on the side to either get a degree in Korea, you know, or taking language courses, doing a bunch of volunteer work. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Heartbreaking kind of situation is if you're on an E2 and you're going through, you know, you're doing all of the volunteer stuff, you're doing all the language instruction, you're completing all these things that you need to do to obtain that eventual F2 visa. You're doing all these things, and it's a lot, especially when you're on E2 and you're working full time. It is very, very stressful finding the time to take a lot of these classes. A lot of them are in the morning, and depending on your schedule, I mean, it's really, really difficult to attend some of these classes. Like for me, my schedule is 9 to 6, and a lot of these classes are during like 10 to 12, or they're 5 to 7 or something like that. And I am working during those times. So it can be really inflexible for a lot of people. It's very stressful. From what I have read and from advice that I've seen, a lot of people say that if you are able to score a topic level 4, if you're able to do that, then you qualify to start KIP at grade 5. So KIP goes up to grade level 5. Are able to score a topic 4, then you can kind of like skip the earlier KIP class requirements and you can start out at 5, and it makes the process a little bit faster because with the KIP program they only have like 3 sessions a year. And the classes are in high demand because a lot of people don't want to be pigeonholed by a sponsored visa when they're here. And like a lot of people want the freedom to be able to work different kinds of jobs. And I think that a lot of people are very open to integrating and learning Korean, but it's really hard when they're trying to do so, and registering for these classes is so competitive and it fills up. And it's also really hard for people who are working full time and they're under that sponsored visa. Like you can find places that will be more flexible with you, but that's a very lucky circumstance. Not a lot of people are able to find a workplace that would be willing for them to, that are willing to let them come into work late, or give them that time to go and take these classes. Like it is really, really hard. Offer part-time positions, and they'll sponsor you still. So a lot of people end up going part-time so that they can take these Korean classes and they can, chances of getting that F2 visa in a shorter amount of time. But the problem is that if you're working part-time, you're only going to be making a certain amount, so your income is going to be a lot lower than if you were full-time. So not only is that an issue, but like the housing can be an issue. Some places will give you a stipend at part-time, some won't, and if they do give you a stipend, it's really low, and then some might give you housing and some most likely won't because it's a part-time position. It really depends. Regarding age with the F2 visa, I would say the sweet spot of obtaining your F2 visa is between like 24, 25 and like 30. So I guess that does give you a little bit more leeway in terms of having the time to figure out how you're going to accrue all of the points that will make you eligible for the visa. For me, with my language proficiency and just kind of see where I'm at in like a year or two, and from there make a decision on you know, keeping pursuing the F2 visa, or deciding to go back to America and pursue something else. It's just a little bit stressful, and I had a moment last night talking to my mom and, you know, talking to my friend this morning, and I 100% understand of learning the language that's here and of integrating yourself socially and all of those things, and being able to like function independently with that flexible F series visa, F2. I completely understand that. And even if the guidelines weren't strict, I would still be very hard on myself to be as fluent in Korean as I possibly can be. I guess it's one of those things where I'm really worried, because I'm like, you know, what if I don't do good enough? Korean is the language that I'm extremely passionate about, and I had the time of my life when I was here studying as a student, because I was getting that Korean language instruction every day, and I was also living here. And I think if I could go back in time, I would have tried to apply for my master's in international relations before like coming here. Like I feel like it would have done me better if I would have applied for my master's and saw what kind of scholarship they were willing to give me and see what I could do. And if I couldn't afford that, then I would have just came on an E2 visa or something like that. Kind of heartbreaking in that way, because it's like, you know, I kind of got stuck where I would either have, like, I would have to make the decision to go back home. And I think that a lot of people call them like visa runs, where people have to go back to their country to like switch their visas up, especially if they decide to go back and get their master's. I've heard of that being a thing, but I'm just worried that as of right now, with COVID and everything and the way that quarantine works, and, you know, things could change a lot in a year, but I know as of right now, especially in Korea, if you're vaccinated outside of Korea, they don't recognize you as vaccinated, which is really frustrating. And like I got vaccinated with Pfizer fully vaccinated with Pfizer in America, and I come here and they don't care if you have the proof with you. I would say, by the way, if you're coming here, just bring it with you just in case. But like, they don't care if you were fully vaccinated in your country. Like, the only thing they care about is if you were vaccinated here in Korea. So like, those are the only people that get like the privilege, like the certain privileges, and those are the only people that are quarantine exempted when they come here. I had to do my 2-week quarantine despite being fully vaccinated. I just don't know if they're eventually going to recognize it or if they're never going to recognize it, and then what's going to happen with boosters, because the vaccination rate in Korea is really behind right now. So it's like nobody's even really thinking about, the general population here isn't really thinking about boosters that much, because not a whole lot of people have been vaccinated yet. So it's just, everything is really stressful. It's a lot on my mind, and I just feel like I've aged a million years. I've only been working for 1 month. I just feel like I've aged so much since going through all of this and doing all this research and looking at expat groups and seeing what other people have to say and their struggles and their experiences. If you're somebody who really wants to live or work abroad, or you have the opportunity, I really recommend joining special expat groups. I joined one that's, you know, especially like a safe space for women. So a lot of people post advice on there. They'll post like questions about, you know, anything from like, how do I unclog my sink and what is going on with the trash, to, you know, sharing their journey of getting their F2 visa and the stress that entails, but the freedom that it gives, and, you know, just allowing you that freedom without being tied to a sponsor, and being able to have a different opportunity job-wise. And the language requirement is not something that I'm against. I am 100% for learning Korean and being fluent in Korean. I want to be. I would never say, I would never support coming here and only using English and not putting in any effort into learning Korean. I mean, that's the whole reason why I minored in Asian studies and why I wanted to choose Korean as my language, because I had a vested interest in coming to Asia and working, and I thought that having an Asian studies minor would be a good supplemental education for me, because it would allow me to understand the culture and to understand the overall landscape of Asia, and understanding how their history and how they have contributed to the world, you know, makes them act the way they do. So it's like a socio-psychological, political sort of understanding that I think that, you know, you should have when you want to work in a certain area. I think it's really important. 100% for doing what it takes with the language. It's just really hard when you're working full time and all of these language opportunities are not available to you. It's very difficult. And it's made me admire the grit of immigrants who immigrate from anywhere or to anywhere. Someday in the future, and I don't know if it'll be in Korea, I don't know if it'll be in America, but someday I would love to be part of some sort of organization that helps immigrants and that advocates for immigrants and foreign workers, because there are a lot of really genuinely hardworking people that are just trying to live where they want to live, and they're willing to put in the work, but it all comes down to resources, and it all comes down to different exclusionary things that get put in place that keep people from being able to pursue that, and it's wrong. In summary, I feel like I've changed so much since I was a freshman in college, and I know that's the point, like, no shit, like, that's the point of, like, growing up and entering in new phases of your life, like, you know what I mean, like, you're going from, you know, being a student, and while I've always had a job, and I've always worked, and I've always been independent in that sense, like, I've never had anybody just kind of, like, give me money. My mom, you know, my family, even though they are supportive of me and they love me, it's not like they can just give me money or get me out of trouble if something happens financially. Like, it's always been on me, and I'm not bitter about it. I think that it's done me good. It's given me that hard edge that I need to get through this world, because it's really rough out there. You need to be your own best advocate, and you need to be your own defender and protector. It's made me want to even more so protect and defend people that don't have the ability to do so. I want to take the gifts that I have, and I don't have that many, but I have a passion for writing, and, you know, I want to take what I'm given and contribute to something bigger than myself, and hopefully whatever that is doing good for a certain community, whether that be on the international scale or a local scale, because everyone deserves to have that help and have that chance. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know the full future. I don't know if there's a certain, I mean, I'm not religious, so I don't know if there's like a certain destiny. I don't know what I'm meant to do. All I know is that the only thing I can do is take it one step at a time and see where things get me, and I'm just gonna study like hell and, you know, take tutoring and do all these things and prepare for the topic, because I think that preparing for the topic is going to be my best bet, because I think that there are more openings when it comes to testing for topic. I still have to look on that. I was actually going to research it today, but I've just been like, so I was like, I really want to upload stuff to my channel, and like I'm feeling so run down, and I feel like I don't have enough time in the day wanting to, and try to find evening stuff and weekend stuff outside of my work, and just figure it out as I go. And like I said, if it ends up that I have to go back to America because I'm not progressing the way I want or need to, or, you know, something, then it is what it is. But all I know is that if I end up being here for a long time, if I end up only being here for a little bit, I know that I have loved being here, and I still do love being here. And like I said, it's crazy. It feels like I've been here for a lot longer, and I don't know, I'm also one of those people that's like, you know, I want to get it done, I want to do it, and like I want to get it done, not as quick, I mean, yes, as quickly as possible, but it's one of those things where I just wish that I could take all of the Korean and put it in my brain and just remember it all, and, you know, be able to just do it and be able to talk to people and express myself fully in Korean, and people don't have to worry about, oh my god, does she speak Korean? Oh my gosh, this is a really frustrating interaction, she doesn't know what I'm saying, and like, you know, people being too scared to talk to me or too frustrated to talk to me, or, you know, like, I don't want to be a burden to people because of my language ability, and I refuse to have the entitled attitude of, well, English is the business language of the world, so you should know English and I'll get by. Like, I refuse to engage in that. And, you know, regardless of F2 visa and making sure you have the Korean proficiency on paper and all of that, regardless of any of that, I do care about it, but that's not the main motivation for me wanting to learn Korean. It's not. And it never has been. It's been purely just falling in love with the language. And just, I never thought that I would ever be fluent in another language at all. I have this like sort of like intellectual insecurity that still follows me, and a large part of me is scared I'm not going to be good enough, and that I'm just going to keep failing, and that I'm not going to pass the tests, and it's really stressful because you only have a certain amount of time, and you know, I'm just really hard on my current self, my past self, my future self. And I know that I just need to focus on the now and hit things as they come, and I'm trying to get better at that. So all in all, thank you for watching this video. I don't really know how long it's going to be. I'm really, really hoping it's only going to be 30 minutes. I'm going to try to cut out as much as I can. Like, I tend to ramble a lot, so I'm really going to try. But I just felt the need to express what I'm feeling right now. And if any of you are in Korea going through the same thing, pursuing your F2, whether you have been here for a couple years or you just got here, for people who are, you know, having aspirations to immigrate to another country, regardless of where it is, like, I just want you to know that I get it. And maybe not to the degree that you are going through, but I understand a lot clearer now. And it's made me an even stronger advocate for internationalism. So that's my video. Thank you so much if you watched it, and I'll see you in the next one. 나중에 봐요.